1984 was meant to be a prediction of the year 1984, of course.
Absolutely.
However, in 1984, there wasn't the mass production of cameras and surveillance systems and things like that.
It's a depiction of an entire dystopia that we see not just in 1984, but we see today as well in 2035. Every part of your life was open to the public, and not to the public, to the government. The one thing that he was about to do was open a diary. This was not illegal, but if detected, it was reasonably certain that it would be punished by death. People in China aren't able to use social media apps, which are not party compliant. Freedom of speech is dying in today's day and age, and even if it took 40 years later than 1984, it is now transpiring in front of our very eyes. So,
but are you trying to say that Charlie Kirk should have been able to say all of that pretty Islamophobic and racist stuff?
Like there has to be an open table for discussion, and whichever platform that you use, whether that be Twitter or now known as X, Instagram, Threads, WeChat, you can't have the Second Amendment and also freedom of speech at the same time. One of two has to go. I believe that diplomacy is not dead.
Good.
I genuinely believe that we can still
come to ask each other, what did the death of Charlie Kirk really do?
It's gonna, if anything else, it's gonna start more fascism, more hatred, more factionalism, and it's a justification for even more violence down the road. And I think it's dangerous. I think it needs to be called out when it happens. It's going to lead to people being wiped out, not just physically from this world, but from the history books.
And no one is saying anything. There's not as much outrage, nowhere near to the extent as much as how much people are talking about Charlie Kirk.
He had the platform to speak and influence millions of people. Whereas your average Palestinian child, unfortunately, is left to the wayside. People are turning off their phones, people are getting off social media because of what they're seeing in Palestine. My family suffers from exactly what this book predicted 80 years ago. That could be seen as anti-party rhetoric. And that is exactly what happened in 1984 in the book, and exactly what is happening now in modern day China.
There are police outside who can see the lights turn on. Then they come and get you, and you have to be ready. Some people have their luggages, their bags ready for when they have to be left and taken to a re-education camp.
Over 1 million, and this is just a population of 15 million, by the way. That's 1 in 15 people in camps arbitrarily. This is even worse than 1984. This is 2025. Somebody should write a book about 2025 because we're living it right now. We don't know how much the Australian government knows about us, but I'm sure it's quite a lot.
And why are we so trustworthy of anything that Apple or Samsung says? Ready? Okay, go. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another episode of Chit, Chat and Chai. I guess classroom edition, because we will be teaching you about a very special book. What's that book?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today's book is 1984, and I'm sure a lot of you have read it already, because it's a very popular book by a man named George Orwell, and he actually was a very popular writer back in the 20th century when he was
1940s.
1940s.
He wrote a lot about just a lot of political commentary, but I suppose disguised in, for example, in the form of farm animals, in the book Animal Farm, which I'm also a big fan of. And did you know George Orwell's not even his real name?
Yes.
What's
I
his real
believe
name?
it's Eric Arthur Blair. Or maybe a mixture.
Something like that.
Something like that. But anyways, he was born before the First World War, apparently, 1903. And by the time he wrote this book, he was already in his 40s, and he had experienced 2 world wars, essentially. And he thought to himself, like, the world is kind of going in a bad direction. Especially with Nazi Germany at the time, and before that you had England and their empires and colonies across the world. The world was really going downhill, and he thought, what better way to express what he was experiencing around him than through his book,
Yeah, 100%.
which
Now we have
actually,
this relic of
yeah.
a time that we're no longer really in, you know.
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
I mean, I think it's coming back.
Yeah,
in
that's
a
the
big
thing.
way. Yeah,
yeah. It's
in
so interesting
2025. Yeah, it's coming back.
how 1984
Yeah.
was meant to be a prediction of the year 1984, of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely.
However, in 1984, there wasn't the mass production of cameras and surveillance systems and, you know, things like that. And corruption wasn't, well, actually, I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of my parents, but corruption wasn't as bad as what I think it is now, to be honest, because of how we had a little lunch break.
Yeah.
So what's the main lesson we can learn from 1984, Shahzad?
I feel like there's a quote that perfectly encapsulates what this book is about, and also it encapsulates what we can learn from it as well. And without further ado, in the first chapter, so Winston is the main character of this book, and he's living in this dystopian reality where he has to essentially work for a single entity, which is the thought police, and he's working as a propagandist. So he wipes history and makes new facts about things that happened before. And such is the state of his situation that the one thing that he was about to do was open a diary. This was not illegal, but if detected, it was reasonably certain that it would be punished by death. So, in this one quote, we realize that he's living in a society where even so much as opening a book can result in severe punishment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
it's really, I think, George Orwell's reflection on what reality could have looked like in just a few years. You know, if Soviets were to take over, or if Nazis were to take over as well, the way that you know people thought would have been massively controlled, and it would have been very bad.
Absolutely, no. I think the fact that he wrote this in 46.
Or was it 48?
Yeah, 48. Sorry, just after the World War II. Detailing what would happen nearly like 40 years later. We're seeing it happen now in 2025, actually. People in China aren't able to use social media apps, which are not party compliant.
Yeah.
People in America are being literally cancelled for saying a few jokes, and I guess assassinated even. So, I mean, it's freedom of speech is dying in today's day and age. And even if it took 40 years later than 1984, it is now transpiring in front of our very eyes. So,
yeah, but are you trying to say that Charlie Kirk, like, should have been able to say all of that pretty Islamophobic and racist stuff? What about that kind of freedom of speech? Like, isn't that hate speech? Shouldn't he be cancelled for that instead of praised or honoured?
I absolutely think that he should be questioned on his beliefs. Like, there has to be an open table for discussion, and whichever platform that you use, whether that be Twitter, or now known as X, Instagram, Threads, WeChat.
No one is using Threads. I think maybe 5 people actually use Threads.
Oh, I still get notifications, but yeah.
I know, but do you actually end up pressing on the notification and then
Never.
scrolling it? No. Everyone just, I don't know, uses Instagram or X.
Yeah,
And even X is on the decline. But anyways. But yeah, no, because like Charlie Kirk was quite open to discussion, I think, you know, with certain tables or round discussions and things where he'd just have a microphone and someone else would be able to talk to him about whatever. But the thing is, he was very adamant to change his mind, and I don't think he would have changed his mind because of how much funding he had received, because of how much support he had gotten from right-wing and conservative people. So, I don't know. The problem is the support sometimes. You know, you want to change, maybe. Like, let's say you gain popularity because of how you were hating on a certain group.
Yeah.
And then later on, you are surrounded by that group still, the fans. And if you do decide that you want to change your mind, what's going to happen with your fans, you know? Then maybe that's Charlie Kirk's situation. He can't really change.
Oh, that's a good question that you posit there, Numan. But I believe wholeheartedly that there are avenues for expressing your disagreement which are better than simply like getting a gun and then ending somebody's life, right? So like, I think we know that the quote, you know, everyone has seen the quote from Charlie Kirk where he's saying that the Second Amendment was a necessary evil, right? Or was necessary for the freedom of speech to exist.
Very infamous quote now.
And now it's bitten him in the ass, let's be honest. So I genuinely believe that you can't have the Second Amendment and also freedom of speech at the same time. One of two has to go. Because,
well,
what do you think?
Like in Australia, there's no real Second Amendment. Like people don't have the right to just hold, like bear arms freely wherever they go. You know, you need a lot of checks, a lot of background checks. I feel like Charlie Kirk was an advocate for just anyone should be able to have a gun. Because, you know, but people say we need more background checks in America. Like, why are we giving crazy people guns? And then on the other side, you've got a person, the killer of Charlie Kirk, who was supposedly and seemingly very normal. He was just a normal citizen. And then he ended up getting into some, you know, sus stuff.
I'm not sure if it was so normal. Like, he was a 22-year-old, like, somebody, like, in psychiatric ward, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I just heard that he was signing up for like some universities and doing normal things. He was just studying, and then he got influenced by a few people who, you know.
Don't believe everything that you listen to in the media.
Where did you hear that he was in a psychiatric ward?
He looked like the type of guy. I'm stereotyping.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, well, all right. So let's say he was, you know, someone who had mental health issues, like extreme mental health issues. So the best thing to do in America's case is find more ways to filter those people away from getting guns and do regular checks as well, you know. But who are we to change America's system?
No, we're just two guys trying to have a discussion over
chai.
a little bit of chai, and you know, I think honestly we just we're going to use our platform to really advocate for diplomacy here.
Yeah,
I believe that diplomacy is not dead.
Good.
I genuinely believe that like we can still talk.
Come to agreements.
Yeah, we can still talk. As
peacefully.
human beings, we can talk and have contracts and agreements, and these are things that have been the values of society for the best part of like thousands of years now.
Yeah. And it's good to ask, I think, ourselves, ask each other, what did the death of Charlie Kirk really do? You know? Can you imagine if someone from the left, a person who happened to be a migrant, killed Charlie Kirk? That would have been very, very bad for a lot of people, because then they'd like the right-wing people might declare a war on, you know, migrants, and they might start getting more violence. And that's why a lot of conservatives were like saying, oh, why'd it have to be one of us? You know? Why couldn't it have just been a migrant or someone from the LGBTQ plus community? So then we could just tell them, that's not how we do things here. Like, I can't remember who it was, a councillor of, I think, Pennsylvania or Utah, sorry, was like saying that exact thing. Someone important was saying something like that. But then we have to ask ourselves, why? Why would someone kill him?
Because there's a hatred brewing in today's day and age.
But do you think the death of one person, the most vocal person, do you think the death of that person is going to end all of fascism and all of right-wing hate?
Absolutely not. It's gonna, if anything else, it's gonna start more fascism, more hatred, more factionalism, and it's a justification for even more violence down the road. And I think it's dangerous. I think it needs to be called out when it happens. It's gonna lead to what we're seeing here in this dystopia depicted by George Orwell in 1984. It's going to lead to people being wiped out, not just physically from this world, but like from the history books.
Yeah.
Like Winston in this book, he works for a publication where he has to literally change the material of history. It's confused everyone. Like essentially, like it's wiping out not just you from the material world, but from the historic world as well, from the books.
You know, one interesting parallel we can find with this is the death of one guy
Yeah.
who was already very controversial, and yes, he's a white American. The death of that one guy got so much media attention and so much outrage for it, right? But we're having people who aren't nearly as controversial and are so innocent, women and children, who are being sniped like every day, basically, unfortunately, by the IDF in Palestine. And no one is saying anything. There's not as much outrage, nowhere near to the extent as much as how much people are talking about Charlie Kirk.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that is?
No, I think it's just because he had the platform to speak and influence millions of people. Whereas your average Palestinian child, unfortunately, is left to the wayside because of the fact that it's just, people don't really have the heart to care anymore, unfortunately, about the Palestinian cause, because it's just already been 2 years, nearly 2 years now.
Nothing's really changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed. People are turning off their phones. People are getting off social media because of what they're seeing in Palestine.
Yeah.
And now the attention is being directed to these famous influencers who never really deserved all of this fame in the first place. Because let's be honest, even though he's a good speaker, even though he can communicate well, even though he has some valid points, I'm not gonna lie, some of his points are valid. Like, he doesn't deserve millions of subscribers and the mourning of for the weeks on end, when there's obviously millions more dying in the Middle East right now. So
it's crazy to see how people, like right-wing people, white people, are crying over his death.
Yeah.
I think they're scared that they could be next.
Absolutely.
That could be
absolutely
why.
Yeah.
Back to the book though, 1984. Let's just talk a bit more about why is 1984 so important right now? Is there one case in China that you want to talk about more?
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously, being an Uyghur myself from East Turkestan, my family suffers from exactly what this book predicted 80 years ago. And they're in a constant fear of not knowing if their words will get them thrown in jail by the Chinese Communist Party. That constant fear of whatever comes out of their mouth, whatever they do on a daily basis, could essentially result in arbitrary detention.
Yeah, 100%.
So much as growing a beard or saying salam to somebody, your neighbor, that could be seen as anti-party rhetoric. And that is exactly what happened in 1984 in the book, and exactly what is happening now in modern day China.
Yeah. Even the use of WeChat, certain words are just not allowed. You can't say it.
That's right.
But the thing is, those words, usually you just think them to yourself and you just say it like it's something normal. Like just saying salam, assalamu alaikum, or just saying something like namaz where you have to pray, or you're saying something to express your identity, or you're wearing a headscarf, or you're waking up in the middle of the night to pray. There are police outside who can see the lights turn on. Then they come and get you, and you have to be ready. Some people have their luggages, their bags ready for when they have to be left and taken to a re-education camp or a concentration camp, which many people unfortunately are denying. The problem is, that's the real thought police. The thought police that we see here in 1984, they're real. They actually exist, except it's in China.
Yeah, and not just in China, and you were saying the deniers are contributing to this propaganda that nothing is happening in East Turkestan, when in reality there are over 1 million people in camps right now.
Yeah.
Over 1 million, and this is just a population of 15 million, by the way. That's 1 in 15 people in camps arbitrarily. This is even worse than 1984. This is 2025. Somebody should write a book about 2025 because we're living it right now.
Yeah,
we're living it, and I'm not gonna mince my words here. The West is moving towards that direction as well. We don't know how much the Australian government knows about us, but I'm sure it's quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure
look at your phone.
Yeah.
Your phone has all of your details, all of your privacy information. And why are we so trustworthy of anything that Apple or Samsung says? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, when was the last time that you read that whole privacy agreement and all the terms and conditions
No
and
one reads
everything.
those. You just
You know,
click it off
Google
and-
has so much of your information. They use that when it comes to reCAPTCHA. You know, when you're trying to like sign in and say you're not a robot.
Absolutely.
Sometimes instead of like it just ticks automatically because it has access to your search history and all of your browse history, and so it says, oh, this person doesn't seem like a robot or doesn't seem like a scammer, and so I don't need to worry about it. It just ticks it. They're not a robot. How does it figure that out? Because it knows who we are, like our inside and out. And soon enough, YouTube, which is owned by Google, is going to ask us for our ID. They're going to use AI to see what we've been watching, and that's just like it sounds like a conspiracy, but it's one step further, a huge step further to mass control.
Well, let's not forget, you speak about something and you see it in ad the day after. So that's not a coincidence.
It's so annoying.
Yeah,
I
you
search
speak
something
about
up
like you
and
speak
then-
about like what UGG boots, and then you'll see that in your ads like 3 days later.
Yeah. Maybe they're all
So
listening to
who
us.
knows? Who knows, man? Look, I don't want to be like that kind of guy who puts on his tinfoil hat and talks about conspiracy theories. But what's real is what's happening in East Turkestan. My family is being affected. So are millions of other Uyghurs.
Yeah.
So are Palestinians in Palestine and Gaza right now. So are Rohingyans, Sudanese. So many other examples that we can't cover in a 15-minute video like this, but we will try our best.
15 or 20.
Yeah, 20
25.
minutes, yeah. Either way,
Yeah.
it is
How
a
long
short
is it right now?
podcast, but
Anyways.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
No, but thank you
wrap it
very
up.
much to
Yeah.
everyone who listened, who tuned in, who comments as well, because we really appreciate the support, and we do hope to grow our platform because we want to just advocate for peaceful discussions. Find something. What's more peaceful than a bit of tea and a nice little chat?
Absolutely, yeah. Freedom of speech. We can speak our mind, but we don't have to be
Punished.
punched for
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
so. Let's be honest.
Or
We're all
shot.
humans. Yeah.
Inshallah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you
Okay.
very much. Yaxshi kalling. Assalamu alaikum wa
Hoş
rahmatullah.
geldiniz.